guys in the dark.
Many years ago, my boyfriend's dad had decided that they would all chip together so that they could rent a condo out in Ontario, so they could have a get-together. The extended family was over there that his dad had never seen. He happened to only get along with his 3 sisters. My boyfriend's mother happened to talk him into going. They let me tag along because I'd been around just long enough that they happened to like me, and they trusted me. I don't remember where everyone else happened to have gone. I believe it was out to the beach. It happened to just be me and the boyfriend at that condo. We were kind of sick of the beach. We just wanted to do nothing in the shade for a little while. We sat outside, looked over the water. We talked about life. I had just finished reading one of the series that I happen to love, and we were kind of talking about that for a little bit. Suddenly, this woman happens to come out of the brush right outside of the condo. So you have a general idea. The condo maybe had 1.5 acres of land. It was out in the middle of nowhere. There was about 80 or 90 feet from dirt, which led to the road where no one had traveled down. There were a lot of trees and brush that had surrounded 3 sides of everything. So this woman comes out of the wooded area. I knew something wasn't right about it. She happened to be limping. She had just one sandal on. She looked like shit, was pale. Her face was scarred. She was really pretty, but she just looked exhausted. The thing that had caught my attention happened to be her baby. She was holding on to the baby pretty tightly in her arms as she started to come right towards us. I had no idea what I should do. My boyfriend had immediately got up and walked over to make sure that everything was okay. I couldn't help, because all the awful things that might happen were flooding my mind. I was just terrified that she would do something. My boyfriend happens to be a lot more trusting, though. He's always had the first instinct of, what happens to be the problem? Is there any way I can help? He never thought that there was really bad in anybody at first. So here she is, just sobbing, by the time that she gets to the porch. She happens to look like she has been through war. She's shaking, hyperventilating, and she is crying, telling us that basically her boyfriend had been drunk for a while. He had been getting worse over the years, and he's just an overall abusive guy. He would get pissed off at her whenever she would take care of the baby instead of focusing on him. What pissed him off the most was that wasn't his kid. He kind of didn't care about the baby at all. She told me this time he was absolutely plastered. She was driving everybody home. The baby happened to be in the back seat. He grabbed the baby's booster seat and tore it out of the car and threw it right out the window while they were driving. She happened to get the baby out of the seat or something. I really don't remember how. She was just telling us about how he started hitting her right before she took the baby and ran off. We suddenly hear this yelling. We turn and see this angry dude walking right up to the condo. She starts losing it on us. So here he is, drunk and angry. He happened to follow her to our condo and then started to come up to us. He was acting like he was really pissed off. He was doing a, "Oh, so you guys had found her. Thank you so much," type of thing. He suddenly looked at her and said, "Baby, let's go home." But he was really slurring his speech. He really wasn't doing a good job of hiding how pissed off he actually was. My boyfriend, who is a pacifist, honestly, he's really not much of a pushover. He's really not confrontational. He tries to find a way to talk things out and come to an agreement before anything does happen. Before I got to say anything, he happens to be across the yard and approaching this dude. He may not like to be confrontational, but he is huge. He's built like a football player. He stands just over 6'4". At the time, he was over 235 pounds. I have known him since we were kids. At the time, we happened to be in our mid-20s. We've been dating for over a couple of years. I knew him better than anybody else did. He's never done anything like this before. He happens to walk up to this guy, looks him dead in the face, and says, "Not another step." He's shaking as he says it. This guy tries to walk around him and goes, "No, it's okay. I'm going to just take her home." Suddenly, my boyfriend happens to step right in front of him, shakes his head. Nah, dude, you're drunk. I'm gonna pretend like maybe you didn't get what I had just told you. Don't come any closer. You're drunk. Suddenly, this dude stops pretending. He says something like, "You don't know what's going on, boy. That happens to be my girlfriend. I'm taking her home." He tries rounding my boyfriend once again. One more time, he blocks him and goes, "Nah, stop, dude." I've heard this tone a few times before. It was pretty scary. It really wasn't him, or so I'd like to think. The guy happened to try one more time, before my boyfriend finally puts his hand on this guy's chest. "Dude, I'm telling you right now, you are not going anywhere near that woman or her child. Turn the fuck around and go home." This guy must have been about 5'4", maybe 5'5". He looks up as if to threaten my boyfriend. The guy finally just looks up at my boyfriend and says something that I couldn't hear. My boyfriend decides to say something back to him at that moment. Suddenly, this guy stared at him for a moment, like he was deciding whether or not that he should do something. My boyfriend finally pushed him away. The guy stumbles back, started pointing directly at me and the girl. He was saying something. Then he walked away. I didn't learn till the very next day, but that guy had told my boyfriend that he happened to have a gun. He was coming right back, and that he would kill him. And I, if we had both stopped him once again. This woman was sobbing. The baby was crying as well. I was shaking because even though he didn't throw any punches or anything like that, I could tell that my boyfriend was ready to hurt this guy if anything else happened to go down. We called the police. Didn't know much of what else to do outside of making sure everyone was breathing, take care of the girl, and take her to my sister's place. We didn't hear much from her after that. I know my boyfriend had sent her an email once or twice. She got married recently to someone else, had another kid last time they happened to talk. Besides all of that, I really did like the trip, despite what went down that day, and his father getting into a fight with somebody in the family. Everything turned out just fine. So I'm 19 years old, and my ex-boyfriend happens to be 24. We had dated for a few months, and then a couple months ago, I had decided that we were not good for each other for various reasons. A major one of those was that he didn't respect my beliefs. I happen to be a Christian, and the main part that he didn't understand was that I couldn't sleep with him before we got married. Our relationship seemed really good, even though it was my first relationship. I didn't have a whole lot to base off of it. He did seem like a good person, though. After the breakup, he did want to stay friends, which consisted of just text messaging each other, small talk, meeting up occasionally, things like that. More like acting like we're acquaintances that are real friends, I suppose. The point is, we really didn't fall out. There weren't any red flags before about a couple of weeks ago, when we had a bit of an argument. It happened to be Sunday. I went to church as usual. To my surprise, he had came to meet me right afterwards. We set off, walking back to my house. He started to roll his eyes at me and said something along the lines of, "I really can't believe someone like you would buy into rubbish like that." Even if he was joking about it, the fact that he wasn't even making an effort to even tolerate any of my beliefs really bugged me, and I told him this. His response was, "Well, I'm not gonna like it if it's the reason I haven't stuck my dick in you yet." I wasn't prepared for him to say any of that, and I was just shocked and disgusted that he was being like this after we had tried to have a normal friendship. I just walked away from him. I couldn't think of anything else to say, so I just decided to speed walk away. He eventually caught up to me, tried putting his arm around me, telling me, "Be honest," because somehow he knew that I wanted him bad. I ended up having to shove him off of me, and I ran the rest of the way back home. Almost right after I had gotten home, he texted me an apology. I ignored it for a little while I tried to calm down. Eventually, I decided to reply, "Okay, Don't say things like that in the future, ever again. I did believe him when he said that he wouldn't. I know it was really stupid of me. He seemed really pleasant before. His apology did seem genuine. And I'll admit, I happen to have a soft touch where he was concerned. I mean, after all, I did still care about him. I ended up regretting breaking up with him a few times afterwards. Things eventually had settled back to normal for a few days. He suddenly messages me again, saying that he still wanted me. Before I could even reply to this, he sent me an apology. I told him once again that all I wanted to be was friends with him for now. That's when he decided that he was going to flip the crazy switch on me. I got a bunch of text messages telling me that a platonic relationship wasn't going to work for him. We should be friends with benefits because he had to have sex with me at some point. And then he sent me a message to meet up. I figured the best response to that was no response whatsoever, which is usually a pretty clear no, especially after everything that I have said, if it hasn't gotten to him yet. He didn't stop, even after about an hour of silence from me. He just ended up getting creepier. He accused me of just teasing him, and then said that we were going to have sex whether I was playing a game or not. I was starting to panic at this point, because it was starting to sound like he was going to just straight up rape me. But I calmly responded, just in case I was getting things out of hand in my head, and just reading it wrong. Or if he was thinking that I was actually playing hard to get. So just in case it was just a misunderstanding, I had spelled it out for him, telling him clearly I was ignoring him because I wasn't interested. His follow-up is what chilled me the most. He suddenly started accusing me of being a bitch, because I was mad about Sunday still. Then he sent me a message saying that if I don't go meet him, he was going to come around when I'm home alone, and he would just get what he wants. During this point in time, I felt like I suddenly didn't know him at all, and I couldn't predict if he was actually being serious or not. I got scared, and I decided that I should get the police involved on this. I replied to him, telling him that he needed to back off now, but he didn't. He somehow found it funny, and told me that by the time they managed to do anything about it, I'll be his. I wasn't safe in my own home, and I had to get out. I put the post online first. I wanted evidence if I really didn't make it to the police station. I packed some things, and I drove to my parents' house. Thankfully, my ex was unaware of where they lived. When I was there, I had showed my father all the messages that I had been sent. He told me to go directly to the police station. For support, and because he was very angry at the time, he had escorted me to the police station. The police did drive-bys of my house that very night, because they were concerned about break-ins after all the threats that had come to me. Luckily, no one had tried to break in. They even took the ex in for questioning in the morning. One of the police officers handling all of this had gotten in touch much later that day, told me that they had evidence from me, and they had him detained and he was being questioned. They asked me to press charges on him. I am planning on charging him with sexual harassment and threatening behavior. Not long after that, he was released on bail with conditions that he should not contact me ever again. I really do wish that he held true to that. I don't have any proof just yet, but I am suspicious that he may have contacted me. Just a couple of days after all the original texts were sent, I was working the breakfast shift at one of the places that I work. Not long after I had arrived, some flowers with a card happened to be delivered. The person had clearly been given my name, since he asked for me by my name. The card was the creepy part, though it was written to order, and probably toned down quite a bit in comparison to what might have actually been written personally. It made my spine crawl. It started off with calling me love, referred to everything as just a falling out. There were apologies, but then suddenly it said that I should apologize to him as well, since we took it too far. And it said that I would be happier if we happened to get back together, because we were both madly in love. It wasn't signed by anybody. It wasn't hard to tell who it was, though. I don't have evidence, so I don't know if I can say that he's actually violated his bail conditions. I did report it to the police station. They didn't have much that they could do with it either, seeing as how there wasn't any proof that it was him. I've had many similar issues with social media. Facebook friend requests that I happen to delete, that I think were him. Nothing serious though. All I can say is, at least hopefully, this will finish everything. I'm praying that this is an ongoing story. My creepy ex, I actually have pepper spray now. I'm staying with my parents, where I can reach my dad's gun at any given point in time. It's probably in both of our interests that we never, ever get in contact again. I will take you to court. That is a fact. After talking to a few of my friends, I ended up getting some advice that told me that I should actually call the florist and see who sent me that gift. So I did. I explained the situation. The person on the end of the line actually was snotty about it. Told me that they didn't give out any kind of personal information, whether I had any boyfriend troubles or not. I spoke to the police officer handling my case, so he decided that he would go into the shop in person. And just like I thought, they do give out people's information, especially if a police officer asks them to. Surprise, it happened to have been my ex. That counts as a bail violation. He's back in custody for the time being. I do have a lot more things that I'm going to take to the police and to court as growing evidence of everything that he's ever done. Because over the last few weeks, I happen to have gotten evidence that he not only violated his bail, not once, but countless times. I can't wait to see his face when the judge throws the book at him. So there was this creep that I later found out was actually connected to my ex. Honestly, I didn't think about it at first. The incident that happened to creep me out happened on a Wednesday. I was leaving work. There was a man sitting on a car right across the street. The car had given me deja vu, but I really couldn't place where I've seen it before. I figured, whatever. He must be a regular here. He's just waiting for somebody or something like that. I kept on walking. I was distracted by someone calling out in a broken, accented attempt at my first language. The guy shouted something like, "Hey you!" I turned around to see what was going on, and whether he was talking to me or somebody else. The guy was standing in the road now, pointing directly at me. He was trying to get me to come to him, especially when he saw me looking directly at him. I stood my ground. I wasn't going to walk out into the middle of the road just to have a conversation with someone that I didn't know. So I just yelled back and asked him, "Do I know you?" in case I had just failed to recognize him, or something else. This had amused him. I know, because he had laughed at me. He shook his head. Now this was a little out of the ordinary. It was very weird to me. Given some of the events that happened with my ex-boyfriend, I was paranoid. I turned aggressive and confrontational, more so than I otherwise would. I demanded that this guy tell me why he had stopped me, if he didn't know who I was. "Oh, there's no reason." He shrugged, and then asked, "Is your name right?" At that point, I started to freak out. I started walking really quickly, away from him. I wanted to get away from this dude, who happened to know my name, but wouldn't say what he wanted from me. As I was walking away, I heard him laugh once again. The way he did itself was very weird, and it was unpleasant. I can't describe how the laugh sounded. Then suddenly he yelled, "All right, I'll see you next week." At this point, I didn't want to see him ever again. That wasn't the end of it, though. I didn't see him again. The car remained right across the street, not moving at all, for a few days. Today I decided to check the plates. I know that may make me seem like a little creepy, but my reasoning is, I was nervous that it might be my ex's. We hadn't dated for a long time, and I only saw his car just a few times. All I really remember was the digits on the license plate. Yep, I was correct. It seemed that somehow my ex had managed to send some other creep to come and harass me while he was in custody with the police. That adds to the stress of the approaching court date. I'm not sure how he got someone to come and harass me, especially when he was in custody. I'm not exactly sure what he's allowed to do from there. I would have to check. I'll have to get in touch with the police once again. It seems neither of these people are worth having in my life. After the case is closed, I really hope that he leaves me the fuck alone. After getting a hold of the police, they clamped off and taped the car, then searched it. One of the officers happened to tell me that they found several guns, many which were illegal. The car happened to be registered to my ex, who is not a legal gun owner in the first place. So as far as they knew, it could all be illegal, unless they happen to be somebody else's. The police are looking for this other guy, especially by the description that I gave them. Nothing else suspicious was found in that car as far as I have been told. I really hope that they find this guy, because he has come into my workplace a few times. I'm pretty sure that he made sure that I wasn't paying attention at first. That way he could walk in, take his order, and then stare at me and harass me. I have called the police a couple of times on him. They're still out searching for him, and I really hope that they find him soon.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.